feel like Gordon Bombay would have taken his career to even further heights.
Everything's flashy, everything's cocaine, everything's
Fun.
Open wide for some soccer.
I don't care what you think about what your personal thoughts are at home. I care that you hate the
Call
Cowboys.
this college ruled.
Welcome, everybody, to the Sports Experience Podcast. I'm Chris. This is Dom. Just a couple of comics talking sports. And give our YouTube channel a sub. We're trying to get the numbers up on that one. Other than that,
Give us money.
yeah. Other than that, we're just trying to get right into this one. Who we talking about today?
We are talking about Riddick Bowe, Big Daddy.
Riddick Bowe, one of the more disappointing heavyweights in the era of heavyweight boxing.
Where it was, this might have been the last era where it was super popular.
Yes.
And he was a great fighter, but just never quite, and accomplished more than almost anybody in boxing history, but he always left you wanting more.
People were wondering because we'll talk about it, where his trainers even said he didn't put 100%.
No.
So that was something that, like, even in his own camps, they were just like, yeah, I mean, he's still eating pizza every night. And, you know.
The man installed a kitchen in his bedroom, which is kind of awesome.
I'm just saying, innovators.
Innovators, that's true. Anyway, Riddick Lamont Bowe, born August 10th, 1967 in Brooklyn, New York, the 12th of 13 children.
Super rough upbringing.
Yeah.
Super poor. Brother dies of AIDS. Sister gets stabbed to death. So, I
By
mean,
a drug-addicted person.
so it's the worst.
Yeah, attempted robbery. I mean, oh, geez. He was actually in the same sixth grade class as another former heavyweight champion.
I thought this was pretty interesting that literally him and Mike Tyson were in the same sixth grade class and they never meet in the ring.
Yeah. Isn't that crazy to think? Well, Mike had some transgressions or allegations that prevented them both from meeting down the road.
Yep.
But classmates at PS 396 there in Brooklyn. Moving on here, he trained at Bedford Sturtevant Boxing Association gym. I think
Bed-Stuy Boxing Association
There you
Gym.
go.
That's how they say it out there in New York.
See, I like that better.
Yeah.
There's less letters.
And right away, as an amateur, he was great.
Yeah.
That's what they were saying, like in the Golden Gloves, which is kind of like the amateur events, the big amateur
New York champion
events.
1984 and 1985 National Golden Gloves runner-up,
Yep.
which is pretty impressive.
And then 86, he's the champion at 178. In 86, he's the champion at 178. And then 87 and 88, he finally goes up in weight. This is when he's 16, 17, and he becomes a heavyweight.
Well, the man in his prime fighting condition eventually filled out at 6'5", 230. With that kind of reach and that kind of, mass, like body mass, like the movie Predator, as we've all seen, is pretty impressive.
He was making that sound. It was scary. That was the thing. So this
frightens me.
He's just a great amateur boxer. He's kind of getting looked over for some of the Olympic trials and shit like that because some might say his attitude's a little rough. I'm just saying.
We'll come to find out later about this attitude when it comes public.
Well, this is what people were saying because they said he was the best youth boxer and he was kind of kept getting left out. He does the Pan Am Games with a broken a fractured right wrist because he didn't he didn't want them to keep him out, and he ends up qualifying for the Olympics in Seoul in 88.
88, he's Flo-Joing it up there out in South Korea, and really does an awesome job. And we get to see a little sneak preview into what could have been an amazing boxing rivalry if he held his shit down.
This one should have been the next big one of this era. So we see him get all the way to the finals and end up losing against Lennox Lewis.
Yes. Some might call a controversial match.
So nothing is more controversial than Olympic boxing.
And figure skating, but yeah, boxing.
That's
Roy Jones
very
Jr.
true
will
too.
agree with you.
That's very true too. But we see Lennox gets what people say an early stoppage.
Yeah. Lennox, takes, flurry of punches, really unsettles Bowe, and the refs just call it. They call it in favor of Lennox Lewis. Goddamn Canadians.
It's quite interesting because if you go back and watch this, you can tell Riddick Bowe is just like there, ready to go and continue the fight. But it's either horrible refereeing or, something else.
Yeah, after 2 standing 8 counts, they called the fight.
Yep.
And I mean, it speaks to Bowe's toughness to take a beating like that. But now he's ready to turn pro. He's ready to turn pro after these Olympics.
Turns pro in 89. I saw that, and this is something that they do with these young guys, is they just kind of throw old journeymen in their way, and it's almost like they have a year of like training, but they're actual fights.
Yeah, as Elias described them to me, these fighters are called tomato cans.
Oh, that's
which I
perfect.
absolutely love.
That is so perfect because literally he had 13 fights in 1 year.
And he's coached by Eddie Futch, who's a really good boxing coach.
But this is what they said. This is like the time in which it's essentially fights, but they're training.
Yeah, they're more. It's like a batting practice.
It's like batting
With
practice,
fists.
yes, because he really is out of these guys' leagues. Because like Elliot says, they're tomato cans, and they really are just bad boxers. But he is on his way up, so that's what we see.
So by 91, he has a couple of fights against our boy Elijah, right? And things happen.
Well, the Elijah fight is just it's a
Elijah
weird
theory, I believe.
Yes. He ends up having a couple of better fights before that. He beats Tony Tubbs and Tyrell Biggs, which are like, I think Tubbs was a former champion, but
Olympic champion, yeah.
yeah, he fights. This one's weird because it's in like the first round.
Yep.
I believe this
Fighting
happens.
in Washington D.C. He knocks Theory down in the first round, and Elijah has the nice idea to go over and try taunting Riddick Bowe.
And so this happens in between rounds as they're
Yeah.
kind of talking shit, and Riddick just unloads on him. And what is so weird is like, it's hard to even explain what happens here because he starts like kicking him and but they have the big old boxing shoes, so it's like not really working. And then the ref calls it, obviously, because they're like fighting each other
Exactly.
in between the rounds. And a lot of people thought that Bowe was going to lose, but
if this fight went the distance or extended past one round.
well, no, the fight was, or he was going to lose because
Disqualification.
just because of disqualification.
But it was Theory who got disqualified for kicking him.
For kicking. That's what everyone was saying, was just like, oh, okay, I guess we're going that way. But this is just kind of the way some of his fights go.
Oh, they are colorful indeed, Chris. We've discussed some before on this podcast.
The next one we see, though, is probably his biggest, and it's hard to say his biggest rivalry because we'll get into some other ones, but his most
Important rivalry.
yeah.
The others are a little bit
not so much
side-showy.
Yeah, I was going to say not so much grounded in good boxing.
Yeah.
So in 92, he ends up beating Evander Holyfield in a unanimous decision over 11 rounds. In this fight, the 10th round.
Oh, man, it's amazing.
It is considered, and they voted on it, it was the round of the year, and it is one of the greatest heavyweight rounds you'll ever see. They trade blows so much so, I can't believe they're fucking both conscious.
And it's insane because Bowe is so much bigger than Holyfield. Holyfield had just come up from being a cruiserweight.
Yep.
So he's got probably 30 pounds on him and a few inches as far as height, but just blow for blow. It was an amazing boxing match.
And they were saying that this was probably Riddick Bowe when he was in his best shape because
he cared about his body.
Well, because it was on his come up. He had all these fights leading up to it, and he ends up beating Evander Holyfield. And it's really, like, if you look at it, it's probably one of his best fights ever.
Is now heavyweight champion of the world.
Yep.
Because Holyfield had beaten Buster Douglas. Because Mike Tyson had some unpleasantness in between.
So Mike Tyson's in jail.
Yeah.
Riddick Bowe's the champion. Lennox Lewis from back in the day, a couple of weeks earlier, ends up winning a fight. And the way that these fights were set up was the winners of these two fights were supposed to meet each other.
Like a little boxing tournament almost.
And they were trying to solidify all of the belts when they were doing this.
Mm-hmm. Doesn't happen though.
Doesn't happen. Riddick Bowe and a lot of his detractors will say this, that he dodges Lennox Lewis.
Yeah, he ducked him. And his behavior during this kind of illustrates that he ducked him.
It's hard to say. I'll tell you what his trainer, his manager came out later on and they said that no, he wasn't scared. We just knew that Lennox could beat him.
Yeah.
Like there wasn't like no. Like he would have taken the fight. He wasn't like, oh no, I don't want that fight. We were like, oh, he's more powerful, he's faster. Like they kind of made the realization that Lennox Lewis was just a better fighter and could outlast him and pretty much beat him when he wanted to. So
Riddick, can we interest you in some tomato cans during this trying time?
Well, they were proposing these because they proposed these fight offers that were so ridiculous in Riddick Bowe's favor that it was obvious that Lennox Lewis was going to deny him.
32 mil from HBO, 90-10 split towards Bowe.
It's crazy.
What kind of self-respecting manager or, person in your corner would say, Lennox, take that deal?
And then the next deal was something stupid where they were supposed to have like an exhibition match.
Yeah.
And then like later on they could have like it was like he was really setting it up to where Lennox Lewis, there was no way he was going to like agree to this fight. And this is what people say was he really ducked him and he ends up throwing his belt in the trash, which is rough.
Go join Oscar, belt.
It's rough. And people were saying this is when he stopped caring.
At least he didn't eat the belt, Chris.
Well, he gets really fat because, like you were saying, he actually has a couple of title defenses, against a couple of nobodies, and I think he has. It's Michael Dokes and Jesse Ferguson.
Yeah,
just a couple of guys, and then he meets up with Holyfield again.
Holyfield's back, looking for some sweet revenge.
And meeting up with Holyfield again, he is literally 20 pounds heavier.
Yeah, and he's starting to look like Hedonism Bot from Futurama.
Well, this is something that you don't think about as a regular person, as a civilian. But in boxing, when you add weight and it's not muscle, and then you try and lose it, you lose a lot of power.
Yeah, you lose strength.
And that's what they were saying, because he was literally just adding fat and then losing strength. So it's literally the worst thing for a boxer to do, especially a heavyweight boxer.
And he had ballooned. He fought at 246. He was much heavier than that. And when he fought Holyfield the first time, he was 235.
And I think they said that he came in at like 260. That's what I mean. So like when a guy loses weight, so he was not the same fighter as the first fight, and Holyfield ends up beating him.
Yeah, November 6, 1993 at Caesar's Palace. All I can think of is, did Caesar actually stay here?
Yeah.
That's what I thought.
Here. Caesar?
Thank you, Chris. They went the distance again, though, in this fight. It didn't turn out in Bowe's favor, but basically Holyfield outboxed him. And we had an interesting thing happen during this fight with a certain individual. Do you want to talk about that?
What was his name?
Let's see. His name, it was something. James Miller, the
James,
most basic white bitch name ever.
James
for a man.
Fan Man Miller.
Here comes the Fan Man. Are you an angel? Yeah, Homer. All us angels wear Farrah slacks.
Oh, man. Comes on down in that Simpsons episode. Please check it out. It is so funny because it literally happens in this. And I have to give this to Riddick Bowe. He felt like it should have been a no contest because the match was stopped for 30 minutes, which he felt like
stupid jag-off.
He felt like really fucked with everything that was happening in the match. And it's so ridiculous to think that this is such a 90s sports thing.
It totally is. But wouldn't it have been better if they just stopped the fight and beat him?
Oh my God.
Just mess this shit up for me.
Holyfield just fucking holding him while Bowe just beating the shit out of him.
You want to switch, Riddick? Yes, I do.
This is what I mean, though. So I kind of feel like Bowe had a good point that it should have went to no contest, but it is fucking hilarious.
It is
in The Simpsons.
Yeah, this is the only fight that he ever lost, as we'll get into later, and what happens to his career. But then let's see. He's back on the title chase again after this, coming into 1994. And my God, he just keeps winning. He beats some tomato cans on the way, of course. In March 11th, 1995 at the MGM Grand there in Vegas, he beat undefeated Herbie McDeffer. Is that what it is?
All right. That sounds good. I was going to say he knocks out a couple of undefeated guys who were like kind of on the come up, and this is what the heavyweight division was at this point. It was like 6 or 7 guys who were in a class above everybody else, because I feel like he beat 2 guys in this time before he meets Holyfield again.
Yeah, he has to. He has to go and chase him. And what people forget, Holyfield had to quit boxing there for a hot minute.
Yep.
He was diagnosed, it was later a misdiagnosis of a heart ailment. And what ended up happening is all the belts are vacated until he can come back again. So it sets up, actually, wonderfully, after he's winning all of these matches, a rubber match.
A rubber match.
between the two
So
of them.
each of them won each, and we see them coming back in 95. They meet again, and this is probably Bowe's biggest fight.
Yeah. His biggest fight, what is it? July 11th, 1996. No, that's that's the other fights.
Yeah, this is 95.
Later. Yeah. 1995, April 4th, 1995. Fights Holyfield, who has hepatitis A now, by the way.
I was going to say, this is a different Holyfield. This is also a different Bowe, so it's not like it's a great rubber match, but they were saying in that 92 is when these guys were really at their peak, and Bowe handled them.
Yeah, because Holyfield's coming off of losing to Michael Moore and losing his belts, essentially.
We see Holyfield actually gets a knockdown, and
First and only time that happened to Bowe. He's knocked down.
I was just going to say, it's not only, but it is literally the only time he gets knocked down, and people were saying that the only person that they were considering could have knocked him out was Tyson, and we never get to see that fight.
Oh my God, he would have ate his children.
Oh God damn, it's so good. But this is what we see. So he beats Holyfield again. He knocks him down for the first and only time, but Bowe literally outboxes him it's another unanimous decision.
8 round.
Technical
knockout.
You're right. You're right.
That was this fight. So he's back in the saddle again, and there happen to be some challengers in his midst.
Well, there's a new Pollock coming up.
They sent a missile to the sun once at night.
So we see so this is the thing in the boxing world. I feel like everybody says Holyfield is the big epic thing. For us here at the Sports Experience podcast, we feel like the Galata Riddick Bowe
Andrew Galata.
That is the battle that we like to talk about.
Football in the groin.
Oh my God.
So Galata's an up-and-comer. If you want to learn more about him, go listen to a previous episode we did on him. It's in the teens somewhere, but it's actually really good.
Well, people actually compare Galata to Bowe and these guys that had potential that wasn't fully, realized. So,
but what ends up happening is he's fighting Galata's a top contender, but Bowe is going through tune-up fights to start trying and fighting people like possibly Lennox Lewis.
Yep.
So it's a good. He's thinking Galata's going to be a pushover, which he is not, because he shows up out of shape again.
The most out of shape he's ever shown up.
252 pounds.
He's talking shit.
Oh, mad shit.
And this is what kind of sparks it.
Yep. So yeah, the crowd is electric at Madison Square Garden. It's July 11th, 1996, and these two face off, and Riddick Bowe is getting the hell beat out of him.
A lot of people felt like this was kind of like a defining moment, that Galata really was outboxing him to an extent that was obvious. Like, an amateur would be like, oh shit, Galata's giving it to him. You know what I mean?
And he was. Bowe was fat and out of shape. I mean, there's no two bones about it. But Galata likes to do things a certain way. And what does he like to do, Chris?
Well, I wouldn't say he likes to do things a certain way. I feel like he was trained incorrectly because there's a certain point when you're boxing that you take the punching bag away. They weren't taking the punching bag away, and then he decided he saw a punching bag in Riddick Bowe's pants. All right, I don't know where I'm going with this.
Give me back my purse. I don't know you.
He literally combos his nuts. It is such a blatant low blow. It is fucking brutal.
It is not accidental, and he had been getting warned all fight about it. And
he does it 3 or 4 times.
Yeah.
It's brutal.
One time is funny. By time 4, you're just like that poor man's Nartledangers.
Oh man, he says Avita's into his nuts, and it is it is the worst. But so they stop the fight, even though Galata is winning, obviously, because Bowe's out of shape. He legitimately knocks his balls around so much that they're just like, all right, we're done. And then all hell breaks loose. So literally, I feel like Riddick Bowe's
Madison Square Garden goes nuts.
Well,
dude.
Riddick Bowe's side was waiting for them to call the fight so they could jump in and
7th round, by the way,
and just start beating the shit out of everybody.
And then there's racial fights in the stands between all the Polish fans and Riddick Bowe's crew.
It's a Galata 72-year-old manager has like a heart attack out there. Galata gets hit with like one of those old school 90s walkie-talkies and has a giant gash across his head. So, I mean, if you're thinking the Holyfield rubber match was a great lead up, guess what?
We got another one.
Galata fucking Bowe 2 is the greatest lead up in boxing history.
Electric boogaloo my soul, Chris.
So, I mean, the second fight, it is such a, like, everybody's talking about it because Bowe's training.
Yeah, like he's actually taking him seriously this time. Like
Bowe's training and Galata's talking shit to where he was just like, I lost that on purpose. Like kind of shit like that where he's just like, yeah, I was beating you. What are you going to do? And it really lines up a really good fight.
A great fight, Chris. A really exciting fight because December 14th, 1996 at the Convention Hall in Atlantic City, New Jersey. We've got a boxing match on our hands.
Well,
and we've got some punching bags on our hands again, if you know what I'm talking about.
Galata's holding his own in this fight.
Yeah.
But it is definitely not one-sided like the first one. This fight is definitely... It is really an even fight for this whole time.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And
then in the 9th round...
I want to say this because we have an Andrew Galata episode. You can check it out. He doesn't do this to any other boxer he's ever faced. And he just decides he's going to combo Riddick Bowe's balls every time he faces him.
I wish if they asked him why he did it, he said, did you see him? They were so punchable. God damn it.
Sorry, yes, punchable balls. Is it my fault? No.
Shouldn't have been looking so punchable in those trousers.
It's ridiculous. So, again, Galata gets disqualified for comboing the shit out of Riddick Bowe's balls. This time, all hell does not break loose because his corner said they saw it kind of coming. And this is one of the fights that people were saying they kind of wished we could have had an ending to. Because the first one was obvious Galata was dominating. The second one...
They're both still alive, Chris.
Oh, my God. Please
pay-per-view this shit up, man.
Riddick Bowe wants that so bad. Oh, my God.
But then it all kind of fades away for poor old Riddick.
Well, this is what kind of is sad. So this is his last major fight. Not because he can't really box, but because... he has some domestic problems.
Well, he has some domestic problems after a boxing career, which saw him go 43-1-1.
Only loss was that Holyfield.
And if that's the only guy you ever lost in your boxing career to, you're obviously doing something right as far as your natural talent.
Yep.
And your God-given abilities. But let's talk about the ladies, Chris.
So in I don't know what year it was, but do you have what year it was?
1998.
So it is in 98.
This
so
is
it's-
after he basically failed out of the U.S. Marine Corps.
Yes.
He about 10 days in the Marine Corps and just gave up because he couldn't handle the physical training.
Yep.
So he's a civilian now, and things are getting weird.
And he gets convicted of kidnapping his wife and 5 children.
Handcuffs, duct tape, the whole 9 yards. Tools! I need tools! I like to be bound!
They're just my tools. That's the thing, is it gets pretty fucking crazy out there. So he bounds everybody, and he essentially kidnaps
From their
them.
North Carolina home.
And he stabs his ex-wife in the chest. She ends up surviving, and he ends up getting convicted of all this.
Well, I mean, that's how the French say I love you, isn't it?
Well, and then we see his lawyer, and what lawyers do best,
Of course
try to
they
get
do.
him off on, I don't believe it was an insanity plea, but he said he was...
Interstate domestic violence. That's what they're calling this now. Interstate domestic violence.
Well, what his lawyer was trying to get him off because he said he had brain damage
yeah.
and he shouldn't do jail time.
Yeah. And for a while it works.
Yep.
Because he only serves 30 days of what should have been an 18 to 24 month sentence.
But they throw out that appeal and he goes back for the full 17 months.
Yeah. February 29th, 2000 is when they have the 30-day sentence. And then February 8th, 2001, something else happens. The man is in his Long Island home and domestically abuses one of his partners again. Because Riddick has a penchant for that old CTE violence.
Well, I mean, it's sad when we see this happen with these guys, but he
can't
definitely
do
has
that.
a huge
You
problem
can't
with
do it.
this. Yeah. Whatever it is, he definitely, maybe it's, he saw Galata in these women. I don't know. I don't know.
He saw their face. I could see their faces.
I could see Galata in their eyes.
Angry Pollock lady.
I just want to pull it back to his career. He's
Yeah.
actually the first boxer to hold 4 major world championships with the WBA, the WBC, the IBF, and the WBO. The only other heavyweight to ever do that was Tyson Fury, and then a bunch of other, weight classes did it after him, but he was actually the first one to ever do that.
Which is pretty amazing as a heavyweight fighter, considering especially this time when there were a lot of good ones.
That's what people were saying. So he was in this era of the best heavyweight fighters. He's in this talk, and what his detractors will say was he didn't train hard enough. He didn't take the Lennox Lewis fight.
Yep.
And if he had both of those things going, we could have had like a Mike Tyson, Bowe, 95 insane
that'd
meetup,
be
and
good.
we don't get it because, but to be honest, at the Sports Experience podcast, we love what we got. We're not complaining.
We loved the latter part of Riddick Bowe's career.
That's right.
His testicles didn't, but we did, and that's what's most important.
Thank you all very much.